The morning sun rose over the dusty plains of New Mexico, painting the horizon with streaks of gold and crimson. For Daniel Hayes, a rancher who had seen more than his fair share of hard times, mornings were always bittersweet. They reminded him of the beauty of the land he called home, but also of the struggles that seemed to cling to every corner of his life. Daniel was not wealthy. His ranch was small, his cattle few, and his debts many. Yet he carried with him a stubborn resilience, the kind that came from years of working under the burning desert sun in endless nights of uncertainty. His life had taught him that the world rarely offered miracles, but on this day, fate had something different in store. Daniel's old truck rattled down a dirt road just outside the town of Roswell. Sitting beside him was his longtime friend, Miguel Alvarez, a fellow rancher and one of the few people Daniel trusted. The two had driven into town for supplies, but Miguel insisted on stopping by a small grove along the roadside. Rumor had it that a group of neglected horses had been abandoned there, and Miguel couldn't rest until he knew for sure. At first, Daniel was skeptical. He'd heard rumors like this before, wild stories whispered in town about cruelty and neglect. But, as they rounded a bend, both men froze. There, tied to a tree with a chain so tight it dug into his skin, stood a young brown foal. His coat, once meant to shine under the sun, was dull and matted. His ribs were visible, jutting out against thin skin. His eyes, wide and filled with terror, seemed to plead silently for help. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He had seen suffering before, but this was different. This was innocence chained, hope nearly extinguished. "We can't just leave him," Miguel whispered, his voice breaking. Daniel nodded. "Oh, we can't." Approaching the foal was no easy task. The poor creature thrashed and cried, pulling against the chain until drops of blood appeared where the metal cut into his neck. Daniel kept his voice low and steady, murmuring words of comfort he wasn't sure the animal could understand. "It's okay, boy. I'm not here to hurt you," he said softly. Miguel worked quickly, pulling out a set of old pliers from the truck. But the chain was thick, rusted, and cruelly wrapped around the tree trunk. Every attempt seemed futile until finally, with a sharp snap, the last link broke free. The brown foal staggered forward, too weak to run, too scared to trust. Daniel reached out, placing a gentle hand against his trembling side. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. The animal didn't move, didn't fight. He simply looked up at Daniel with eyes that spoke of both pain and fragile hope. "What do we call him?" Miguel asked quietly. Daniel thought for a moment, then answered, "Phoenix, because he deserves to rise again." With Phoenix barely able to walk, Daniel and Miguel loaded him carefully into the truck. Their first stop was the small veterinary clinic on the edge of town. There, Dr. Emily Carter, a kind-hearted woman with decades of experience, rushed to their side. "Oh my God," she gasped as she examined the foal. "If you hadn't found him today, he wouldn't have survived the night." The words hit Daniel like a blow. He realized just how close Phoenix had come to losing his life. Dr. Carter cleaned the wounds, administered fluids, and gave clear instructions for care. "He'll need constant attention. Feeding every few hours, clean bandages, and above all patience." Daniel nodded without hesitation. He didn't know how he would manage it all with his struggling ranch, but he knew one thing. He could not abandon Phoenix. Word of the rescue spread quickly through Roswell. Some townsfolk offered support, bringing hay, blankets, and medicine. Sarah Collins, a local school teacher with a gentle spirit, stopped by Daniel's ranch to help with the feedings. But not everyone approved. Sheriff Mark Reynolds arrived one afternoon, his face stern. "Daniel, you're taking on more than you can handle. That foal belongs to someone. If the owner comes forward, this could mean trouble." Daniel squared his shoulders. If the owner left him chained to die, then he forfeited his right to be called an owner. "Phoenix stays with me until he's strong enough to run free." The sheriff studied him for a long moment, then finally sighed. "You've got a stubborn streak, Hayes. Just don't let it break you." Days turned into weeks, and slowly, Phoenix began to heal. His wounds closed, his brown coat grew brighter, and the terror in his eyes was replaced by trust. Daniel, too, found himself changing. Caring for Phoenix gave him purpose beyond debts and droughts. Each morning, as he brushed the foal's mane or watched him take shaky steps around the corral, Daniel felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Sarah became a constant presence at the ranch. She admired Daniel's dedication and often told him how much the town respected his courage. Their friendship deepened, built on quiet conversations under the wide New Mexico sky, with Phoenix grazing nearby. The breakthrough came one crisp morning when Phoenix, once too weak to stand, suddenly galloped across the pasture. His legs stretched long and strong, his mane flowing in the wind. Daniel and Miguel stood side by side, unable to hold back their smiles. "He's free," Miguel said softly. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "Yeah, he's finally free." News of Phoenix's transformation spread far and wide. Even Anna Walker, a reporter from the state capitol, came to interview Daniel and photograph the foal. The story touched hearts across New Mexico, sparking donations and letters of support from strangers who had never met Daniel, but were moved by his act of kindness. Months later, Phoenix had grown into a magnificent brown, horse-strong, proud, and full of life. He was no longer the broken foal chained to a tree, but a living symbol of resilience. Daniel often reflected on how close he had come to driving past that grove, how easily Phoenix's story could have ended in silence. Instead, their paths crossed, and both their lives were forever changed. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Sarah stood beside Daniel at the fence line. Phoenix galloped freely, his silhouette cutting across the fiery sky. "You saved him," Sarah whispered. Daniel shook his head gently. "No, he saved me." And in that quiet moment, surrounded by the endless plains and the steady heartbeat of hope, Daniel Hayes knew that sometimes miracles weren't given, they were made. One act of compassion at a time.